Welcome back, everybody, to All Things NBA from A to Z, presented as always by ballislife.com. I'm Kris Pursiainen here in the wake of Knicks Media Day. It was this Tuesday morning, September 23rd, when we're recording. Alongside me, I have my colleague, Ray Jarvis. Jarv, you can follow him at JarvTGA on the Bird app. I've got the ad on the screen. Ray, thank you for joining me. I figured with our shared workplace being a sports radio station, it was fitting for us to do some sports radio essentially today and discuss what the Knicks have ahead of them with this season, what happened today at Media Day, what this roster is going to look like, what this on-court product is going to look like. All in all, before we start, how are you, man? Everything good?
I can't complain, man. It's a pleasure to finally join you. We've been talking about this for months, trying to put it together. I think since the tail end of the NBA playoffs through the offseason, we were like, yo, we have to get together and make something happen. So I'm glad that we're doing that today. Let's cook up. Let's talk a little Knicks hoop. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, first of many collaborations here, I know I always appreciate Ray's perspective, and he knows much more about NBA history than I do. So someone to not just bounce thoughts off of, but get great thoughts from, and that's why he's here on your screen right now. Ray, we're going to get going with the Knicks, and they got going today a little earlier than most other NBA teams. They do have some preseason action coming up in Abu Dhabi. So their media day a little bit earlier, along with, I believe, the Nets, the 76ers, one other team. It's great, though. Even though it's a little early, it's great to feel back into the swing of things, or I should say, like we're around the center court waiting for the tip-off, instead of using a golf term. But, as we await the literal and metaphorical tip-off of this season, all you can do is think and project. I think this is going to go this way. This is supposed to go this way. Today, we got some reality. Today, we did not get a second of basketball, but we got some reality regarding the Knicks, what's going on with them, what they're going to be doing this season, what they're going to be trying to do this season, rather, and what that'll look like as they go about it. I think the first thing to address is the first time Mike Brown addressed the New York media in the state of New York. He did talk to media out in Summer League in Las Vegas, but, first home game for Coach Brown here, going up against the vaunted and daunting and terrifying New York media. There were lots of laughs.
Undefeated New York media.
There were lots of laughs shared with Brown, the players, everyone. Brown definitely, as you can tell from the post-game presser where he brought a laptop to the table to show the calls that he thought the referees missed. There was one point in the interview where he is speaking to the room and then looks directly into a camera in the back and is like, and shout out to my people in Westchester County. So this is a New Yorker in spirit already. And this is a coach who brings a lot of experience to the table. You've watched Mike Brown coach the basketball games in your day. Laker calamity, not aside, because it's part of the reality, but what do you expect from a Mike Brown team? I think a lot of people talk about Mike Brown teams as, oh, well, he's an offensive coach and he's going to come in and revamp your offense. And it's like defensive coordinator with Golden State for 4 years. Everyone thinks Jordi Fernandez ran his offense in Sacramento, and that's why he got the Nets job. No, Jordi is a great coach. Jay Triano ran the offense in Sacramento. Still wasn't Mike. So, yes, Mike brought those minds into the building the same way he assembled a staff here in New York. But I do feel like there are some misconceptions about what Mike Brown, the coach, prioritizes and brings to the table. What would you say you expect from a Mike Brown team?
Well, the thing is about Mike Brown is a lot of times your first impression, especially in the NBA, is who you are. You think back to his Cleveland days, defensive-minded head coach, super vanilla offense. Back in that day, I said that the Cavaliers offense was the pass it to Will offense. It's a Fresh Prince reference. If you know, you know. Everything went through LeBron. LeBron did it all. And we learned in the years afterwards that is a LeBron heliocentric system. It wasn't Mike Brown's fault. If you have LeBron James, everything goes through him. But in real time, we all thought that he was a thoughtless, defensive-minded coach who just acquiesced to his star player. I think that we learned during his time in Sacramento that he can be forward thinking. And of course, he took the lessons from Golden State and adopted them with Sacramento. Whoever you want to credit for it, it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is he wasn't like pigeon minded about it. He so said, "This is what the league is right now. Let's implement this. Let's go win it." And the Kings went from immediate laughing stock to a great NBA story, and they took a Warriors dynastic team 7 games in the playoffs. Some might argue that they should have won that series if they had a little bit more experience. So there's some negatives with them. There's some positives with him. But I'd like to say that he's the more so the Sacramento version of himself via Golden State and those lessons that he will have an even better roster with the Knicks, a better situation with the Knicks that will lend itself to a lot of success. I like the personnel grouping because to me, the Knicks have a good balance of offensive-minded players and defensive tools to where Mike Brown can mix and match with his defensive mind. I think the Knicks, even more than even previously with the guys that they brought in the offseason, can be a team that in the playoffs can play a different way in each round depending on the matchup because now you have more versatile players, guys who could play a little bit bigger than their size, a little bit more versatility on the wing because we looked at the playoffs last season as the Knicks went along and the attrition of the playoffs continued to build upon them. They became kind of predictable. We knew where the ball was going. We knew how it was going to get there. But then you add in a guy like Brogdon, you add in a guy like Jordan Clarkson, you add in the mind of a Mike Brown. I think that the Knicks are a very entertaining team. And if you can have a healthy Mitchell Robinson for the entire season, we know what bigs do under Mike Brown. So I think everything is in place for Mike Brown to shine and maybe even win another coach of the year because this group is talented. The minds around the organization are talented. And that's a lot. As the Knicks have come from the doldrums. I'm talking about a complete opposite lack of creativity to arguably one of the more forward-thinking organizations in the league. And I think the roster construction, the coaching hire, and the general energy, even in the front office, the kind of guys they're bringing in to fill out the roster, this is a dangerous group, and I'm excited to see how Mike Brown puts it together. I think low-key, although he parented a little bit in media day today, doing the Mike Brown thing, showing you all 47 of his teeth, nevertheless, I think that they got it right this offseason, and the Knicks will be very live.
Yeah, and you know, when you were talking, I got to thinking about, okay, everyone agreed when the Knicks traded for Josh Hart that he was the thesis, he was the paragon of an example of the kind of player that thrives under Tom Thibodeau. And I got to thinking, well, who's that guy on this Knicks roster? And my mind goes to the only offseason acquisition that wasn't a draft pick that you didn't mention, which was Gershon Yabusele. And, you know, that's someone who can play the 4, can play the 5. A lot of small ball 5, not known as a defensive stalwart, bangs in above the break threes. Like Mike Brown said today, something that he said that caught my ear very much so was, you know, 1 through 4, those guys are all shooters. We know that. That's the NBA today. They're going to be shooting. They're going to be handling the ball, moving. Our 5 is always either just going to run the floor or be the trailer. And it was like, because under Tom Thibodeau, centers had a very specific role. Yes. Norvel Pell, Nerlens Noel, Taj Gibson, Mitchell Robinson. These were different Pokemon evolutions of the same starter Pokemon. Like these were different levels of impact in the same mold of big man. Now you've got not only Karl Anthony Towns, the lights out shooter from today, but you also got Gershon Yabusele, who, yes, we can go right to he dunked on LeBron in front of the whole world, which takes, you know, some guts and some ability, some athletic ability. But how about the fact that the Knicks now have 2 players that play center who are real, legitimate, scary threats from three-point land? That has Mike Brown written all over it to me. And so with Brown, an emphasis of today, which I can extrapolate from that our 5s are either going to run to the rim or trail and take a 3, coupled with the at length answer that he gave. Fred Katz of The Athletic asked him about Jalen Brunson as an off-ball player. Right. Basically hinting at, hey, you know, this guy is shooting 7 threes a game for 3 years straight and making 40% of them. Is he a really good shooter, or is he only a good shooter when he dribbles and then he drives and then he kicks out and then they don't get anything, so they give it back to him,
true.
and then there's 6 seconds left on the shot clock. If you can make the shot, you can make the shot. So what Mike Brown said that stood out to me as well was like, the one thing, he said this, the one thing that he really wants to make sure he does for Jalen Brunson is ensure that he gets more open looks. Ensure that he's taken the same amount of shots. He's still taking just as many three-pointers. He's still grinding, but he wants those shots to be easier. He wants those shots to come easier.
But hold on, Kris. This is the thing that concerns me with that. If you have an offense and you have a vision of what you want that offense to be, we completely understand that. But if the player is who he is, do you run the risk of having an early season setback to where you want to get him comfortable playing off the ball, getting him out of his comfort zone, and you lose a few games you have no business losing, to where it's like, all right, now we're in the spring and we're thinking about seedings, and we look back on those games in November and December we lost, trying to figure out how to properly use them when, in my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The deeper question, I'll pass it right back to you, is, are players complaining about their rhythm playing alongside Jalen Brunson, considering he does dominate the ball as much as he does?
So this will go right to the exchange that Brunson had today with Steph Bondy of the New York Post, where Bondy, because Brunson came right after Brown in the order of the media availabilities, and Steph asked him, he goes, Mike talked about you playing off the ball a little more, using your elite shooting a little more to the team's advantage, getting you some more open looks. As a guy who pretty much since college is a ball dominant player, how do you feel about that? And Brunson goes, really? And Steph goes, oh, well, I guess except for Dallas. And Brunson goes, yeah. So he's done the off-ball thing and excelled at it. It's what got him the first $100+ million deal for a player signing to a team that did not draft them, that had never made an all-star game up until that point.
Yeah,
so,
but to be fair, you're playing off-ball with Luka Doncic. There's no Lukas on this Knicks roster.
But so there's Mikhail and OG and Carl who can all shoot. There's Yabusele who can shoot. Right. The point is not, it's got to be one guy. He's got to draw a double team, and then that's it. The point is, Jalen Brunson's the best player on the court. Cool. Can Mikhail create an open three for him by setting a good down screen, and Carl leaks out? And it's about the rising tide lifts all boats.
So it's essentially weaponizing the gravity of Jalen Brunson in different ways.
The best shot for the team. And as a result, Jalen Brunson will put up the same stats, but it'll happen prettier. It'll happen in a way where it's not, okay, guys, we need a bucket in the clutch. We're going to give it to OG and say, well, sharing's caring, right? So your turn. No. Mike Brown made very clear who the guy down the stretch is. He said Jalen Brunson is going to have the ball down the stretch. Before practice. They practice for the first time tomorrow on Wednesday. He already knows who his clutch time ball handler is. There's no questioning the validity, the elite caliber of the Knicks captain, their first captain since 2019. Shout out Lance Thomas. But there is no desire from Brown to stifle or limit or inhibit Brunson. But he thinks by taking Brunson just off the ball a little bit, and taking that energy and that usage and sprinkling it on, let's get you some wide open shots. Like, we know you can make the tough shot off of 2 feet when you're sideways and the backboard is between you and the rim. You're going to make that. You're Cirque du Soleil, like, God bless, right? But do we need to rely on that, or should that be the break glass in case of emergency option, which seems to be the direction Brown wants to go in? So with regard to what the team is going to look like, it seems like the things that were made very clear, where they want to play fast. Brown is telling them all they need to get in great shape to be able to play fast. The team has been holding optional workouts, which apparently Mikal Bridges has attended as many as 2 of per day. And Jalen Brunson has been in good shape in those workouts, and Brown has been impressed by his willingness to run. Something else Brown pointed out, and this wasn't in direct reference to last year's Knicks or to Tom Thibodeau's coaching job that he did and succeeded with in New York, but when asked about some things that he kind of wants to enact, some changes he wants to enact, he said another way they can get Jalen Brunson easy shots is once he drives and kicks, don't just go to the corner and stay there because now you drove and kicked. keep moving. And that's the Steph Curry of it all. That's why when Karl Anthony Towns was asked about this potential new role, it's really just a little tweak in role for Jalen Brunson. He was like, oh, like Steph Curry, like we got to get him screens. We got to, and it's like, yes, that's exactly how Mike Brown, who, by the way, coached Steph Curry for 4 years, would want you to think. So I think that seems to be the vibe around there. Now, I'm gonna juxtapose that vibe real quick with Josh Hart and his right ring finger. If you have not seen the image, and I'm trying to create the image for you. I'm not trying to be funny or disrespectful. It's like Josh just like had a Looney Tunes anvil dropped on his proximal interphalangeal joint. I believe this one is called, the big one near your knuckles.
Cool.
And
I skipped that class.
swollen red, like it didn't look good. Josh intimated to reporters that, like, hey, they do not want me talking about this, but like you guys can see my hand, so I see you all staring at my finger, so I might as well address that. I recently re-aggravated this finger.
No, he has the finger of an offensive lineman. Or there was a football player that played with the Rams, Torrey Holt. If everyone who's watching this, go Google Torrey Holt's fingers. That is what Josh Hart's finger looks like right now. It's pretty ridiculous, in fact.
I think the thing that gets like overlooked or under discussed is how much that must hurt, like on a second by second basis. Like, you know, these guys are superheroes and they're superhuman and they do what they do because they're the cream of the crop. They're the super athletes of the world. That said, we all have pain receptors. That has to hurt, first of all. Second of all, it's his shooting hand, which just doesn't bode well for someone that plays basketball professionally. To put it as simply as possible, Hart spoke to the plan being for him to wear a splint on the finger for the entirety of the season. And then next offseason, once he has time, to surgically repair it. Now, Hart did have surgery on this finger. This finger underwent a procedure, was, you know, looked at by doctors and something was altered in there. But Hart pretty much said without saying that they didn't know exactly what was wrong before. And as a result of the re-aggravation, they now know exactly what's wrong.
That's interesting.
So maybe I don't even want to say what I was going to say because I don't want to just start speculating and speaking out of where, but like it's something that they clearly do not feel the need to shut him down early for. Maybe by game 4, if he can't hit a single three and it feels like it's hurting him out there too much, like he said himself, yeah, we might have to readjust. I may need to get a procedure, but
let's be clear for a second. We don't have Josh Hart on the floor to shoot the basketball. His shot is kind of broken as it is. His corner three has improved, but he's there to do the dirty work. He's there because he's able to be their matchup bully. He can guard a big if you need him to, depending on who that big is. He can guard one of those big wings. He can guard your point guard. He's almost like a mini Draymond in a lot of ways for the New York Knicks, and he brings a lot of scrappiness and tenacity to the table. So while I think the offense would be nice and shooting the ball with the split would be difficult, as a former Laker, he needs to just inject some Mamba mentality. Kobe won 2 chips with splints. Figure it out, Josh, because the Knicks are going to need you if they're going to go anywhere. What he brings to the table as their main Swiss Army knife, a.k.a. intangible guy, he's too important to the organization, so he needs to be on the floor. The only problem with being the intangible guy, the scrappy guys, is that when you're diving for the ball, you're trying to get these rebounds, you're trying to go for the deflections. One wrong deflection, one wrong dive, he might be out a couple of weeks because he uses his hands a lot. His hands are the most important part of his game. So I'm concerned about this finger. If I'm the Knicks, quite frankly, I know they implemented a new offense. They got a new coach, it's a new system. If I'm the Knicks, I might want to shut him down early in the season. Take the preseason on. Maybe play the last 2 preseason games. Get this finger to a place where we don't want to. We want to mitigate just how much damage we can run into when the season begins.
Absolutely, and I do think after the initial surgery, that's what the plan was. Hey, let's see how this goes, and give him some time off first, and then when he gets back to it, he'll be ready to go. Getting back to it is what re-aggravated the injury, is from what Josh said. So It was once he started playing again, once he recovered and started shooting again, that led to the problems. I will also note that there's a difference between somebody who takes 0.3 threes a game and someone who takes 0. That it's about the possibility. It's about the threat. And Josh Hart last season was already treated as a non-threat from downtown because
he was getting the Rondo treatment.
That's the what teams decided to play into to do their best job to cover Brunson and Towns both. Here's the thing though. If Josh hit 1 or 2 threes, that's what flipped the Philadelphia 76ers playoff series around entirely 2 years ago. Was Hart came out guns blazing from deep, and then he barely even took them in the second half of the series, but Philly was guarding him. So they were no longer open, so he no longer took them, but Brunson wasn't automatically double teamed because they didn't respect Hart. Developments like that happen over the course of a season, that happen throughout the course of a playoff series, need to be able to happen. So for Hart, it's going to be a challenge, and we're going to see if he can really just, tough through this the way that they are planning, or if there's going to be some change in plan. I did get the sense from the conversation today at the practice facility, and he even said someone asked him after he first brought it up. They're like, "Well, you said you were doing some other stuff that messed it up. Like, what's wrong with the finger?" And Josh just like looked at the PR team and was like, he might as well have been mouthing, like, "I realize I messed up." He also literally started his answer with, "I think," and then he said the PR director's name, "already wants to strangle me, probably, but," and then gave as little detail as he could after that. I think this is something that they're still figuring out. And I think Josh just realized everyone in the room was staring at his ring finger. And figured, okay, they know, like, the cover's blown, guys.
I mean, he can't come in the media day wearing gloves, so it was bound to happen. They should have had a good plan for him, in my opinion.
I think they had a good plan for him based on what they knew. I think it's unfortunate that to find out what they know now, it required surgery, recovery, training, and eventual re-aggravation. But I don't know, besides having a perfect doctor, how to avoid that in the first place. And I'm sure NBA players go to doctors that aren't exactly, struggling on Yelp. So I can't imagine that there's something better they could have done, but I understand what you mean. Like, how did we, one, just find out about this at Media Day? Two, the season is a week and a half away from starting in Abu Dhabi, and you don't know if the guy who played, a top 3 minutes in the entire NBA over the last 2 seasons total or something like that, like, you don't know if he can go. But that's the thing, is they're going to find out one way or another. And it seems to me like part of the sell, not that this is why they hired Mike Brown, but part of what might make the sell easy at the start of Mike Brown's tenure will be his willingness to go maybe to a Kevin McCullough Jr., maybe to integrating Brogdon heavily into the rotation from the start. Maybe he comes out game 1 and starts Mitchell Robinson over Josh Hart, not because of any finger splints, but because he wants Karl-Anthony Towns out there not worrying about being the only big man presence. So we'll see how they choose to handle it. It's definitely going to be revealed to us in the immediate future. October 2nd, I believe, early in the morning, 10 or 11 a.m. Eastern, is that first Abu Dhabi game. These answers will come soon.
I just don't think they want to rely on Brogdon that much so soon, because he's made of sugar glass. Okay, one wrong move, he's out for three to 4 months. So I don't know. Maybe Yabusele plays a different role than being a 5. Maybe he becomes the new Josh Hart in the immediacy while they get him right, because he's capable of being that as well.
6'6", but stocky and
athletic too. He can move them puppies.
Actually, is he 6'8"? Yeah, he is 6'8". So 6'8", mobile, someone who can go out there and hustle. Yeah, I absolutely get it. Kevin McCullough Jr., like, that's kind of his whole thing. Like, he's not some knockdown 3-point sniper. He did a good job at Summer League this year, but like, the appeal of Kevin McCullough Jr. is motor, defense, rebounding, making the right read. It's a lot of Josh Hart. And I almost, like, advised against the Knicks drafting him, despite me loving McCullough as a prospect, because of the redundancy with Hart and the pressing matter of how many non-shooters can you afford in your rotation in the big 2025 in the NBA. But with Hart potentially sidelined or maybe just needing a decrease in playing time further than whatever Brown already had planned from last year, McCullough could be someone who steps up there, and that's just all archetypal though. That's not anything I've heard. That's just he fits the mold. That speaking of depth, man. Speaking of Brogdon and speaking of the team's depth, I feel like this is a good time to get into the fact that the Knicks have one roster spot, and neither Landry Shamet nor Malcolm Brogdon are currently guaranteed that roster spot. This sets up a camp competition. This sets up some unfortunate cuts. This sets up, right? Like, it feels like Hard Knocks right now. Episode 3. You're starting to meet some of the fan favorites. The kids, the young rookies are growing. And it's like, well, hope we get them back on the practice squad because we have no choice. Like, you almost get that feeling a little bit. And I don't mean to do the Windhorse, now why would that? But I reported for Clutch Points that both Brogdon and Shamet had offers from other teams. They chose to take non-guaranteed contracts with the Knicks. That, to me, gives at least a bit of implication that they feel they'll make the roster.
Right.
One spot, 2 vets, someone's got to go. Will it be one of the younger players? Would that be wise? Pacome Dadier, James Edwards of The Athletic just said he thinks Pacome Dadier is the most likely player to get traded. Knicks took the youngest player in the draft in the first round. He agreed to take less than the typical pick at that slot would make, so that the Knicks could trade for Bridges and eventually trade for Towns and still stay under the second apron. All sorts of cap gymnastics and acrobatics to get, again, the youngest player in the draft, who The Athletic Sam Vecini threw a Tobias Harris comparison out there. Someone, a DD in the Knicks Film School Discord, very niche reference, but recently threw Wilson Chandler out there. You can kind of see the range of outcomes.
Right,
Wilson
right.
Chandler to Tobias Harris. You get
quality pros.
You get already what kind of wing this is, what kind of player this is. But Dadier is French and lanky, and he's got the European team-centric, defense-first style of play. And that's all very appealing for this Knicks team that needs guys who are going to come in and fill the corner and be great on defense. They don't need another all-star point guard. They don't need another shooting big man. They need the guys in the middle now. They need the guys that fill the gaps in between. So could Dadier be on the move? Would that be wise to trade a first-round pick a year after taking them without them barely having played for you? I don't know what I think is right, but I do think contention is when tough decisions are made. And I do know that if the Knicks ended up trading someone like Tyler Kolek or Pacome Dadier, even assuming they get much more for Dadier than they would have for Kolek, just to make room for Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet on the roster, that might not be very inspiring to some people. But if they're trying to contend this year, do they need the vets more?
Before you continue, and let's say
the floor is yours now.
The question I have for you before I give my opinion is there a scenario where Dadier can just be hidden in the G League and still be a Knick talent, and maybe he never sees the Garden this season, and this way you can keep the vets, or they have to trade him in order to keep the vets?
Trading Kolek would leave them $44,000 under the second apron. Dadier would leave them much more room because he was a first-round pick. So it's kind of been raised as such by Knick beat reporters like Steph Bondy and James Edwards. Last year, the Knicks brought in PJ Tucker after the trade deadline because they knew they desperately needed a connecting veteran voice in the locker room. Trading Kolek would afford them the roster spots they need for Brogdon and Shamet, but not afford them the cap flexibility they would need to make another signing like that at the deadline. Now, this is where the serpent might eat its own tail. Do you need that kind of signing at the deadline if you're doing what it takes to get both Brogdon and Shamet? Or does having advanced and additional veteran presences on your roster not matter, because when something fresh and new is needed, something fresh and new is needed, counterpoint to the counterpoint? if something fresh and new is needed, someone's getting traded anyway, so we'll deal with that down the line, right? Like there's a bunch of different ways to look at this. I do believe that it doesn't really matter if they just trade Tyler Kolek, who makes less, and they only have 44,000 under the apron. Because if they want to make a big change, they're going to need to move a bigger salary, and that'll open things up.
Well, here's what I'll say to that. Now that I have the information in front of me, I think, with Dadier, he's a talented young wing. He has a pretty decent ceiling. I won't say that's a super high ceiling, but that's a good ceiling to have nevertheless. And it'll, if you drafted him and you use real draft pick currency in order, he wasn't somebody that you found with like the 57th pick in the draft. Like you drafted him pretty high as it could be for what the season the Knicks had. That is, I don't see a scenario where they would trade him. And I think, to your point, if they're going to keep a Landry Shamet and a Malcolm Brogdon, then there is no need to bring in a connecting vet later on. Because in my opinion, considering Shamet was already there last year, he has a rapport with them, and Brogdon is a well-liked player throughout the league. They already have the vets right there. Quite frankly, the Knicks are not in the position anymore to be what I like to call a cool story. They are walking into this season as a favorite in the East, if not the prohibitive favorite in the East. And in order to be a prohibitive favorite, you have to have vets. The young guys are cool, but you need vets. You need mature guys that could be in situations, who've been through wars, have been through battles, who know to say the necessary thing to the younger guys. Because sometimes, Cat can get lost. He gets in his own head from time to time. You need a guy to pull him aside and tell him to chill out, get your head in the game, or whatever you need. He'll know exactly what to say to Cat. We've seen Mitchell Robinson be a little aloof at times, especially this past season and into the offseason. There's been some weird energy over there. So you need guys like that to connect. So if you're already bringing these guys in, and as you said, a situation where they took non-guaranteed, why would you do that situations? Then of course they're staying. There's no way they would waste either one of their times, especially Shamet, who was already a Knick last season. So I'm going to operate under the guys that both of those vets will be there, and Kolek is the odd man out because they use the draft currency to bring in Dadier. And if his ceiling is that what we think it might be or potentially could be, you just don't want to give that away. Because if you and with these second apron deals where you're trying to like have room under the apron, a lot of these trades you're getting back. I don't want to call these players nothing, but you're not getting back much when you trade these guys away for these second apron shenanigans. So I doubt that they would draft him.
The leverage
trade
is
him
low
for nothing.
Yeah. Other teams know why you want to move the guy.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing. Like, hey, I bought these sneakers for $300. Do you want them for $220? The first question you ask should be why, right? Like,
did you wear them?
Yeah. Why is this deal being presented to me? Like, why do you want to sell the shoes? Obviously, you're not selling players. You're trying to work with teams and find a win-win deal for both sides where you can get someone like the 24-year-old Tyler Kolek opportunity that he would not get in New York. The other thing to back that up is they brought in Brogdon, Clarkson. Those are two veteran guards. They did not sign any veteran wings.
No.
They extended Bridges, but Bridges, Anunoby, Shamet is kind of the pecking order at the wing spot for the Knicks. And that's easier for Dadier to crack than Kolek getting in the mix of Brunson, McBride, Clarkson, Brogdon. So he does seem like the natural odd man out. I'm curious to know if teams figuring that out now won't give anything up for him, basically daring the Knicks to cut him or to trade someone more valuable.
But how much can the Knicks expect back in a Kolek trade besides maybe some draft capital?
I was going to say maybe 2 second-round picks at the most. They traded 3 to get him.
Right.
They moved up. They didn't move up. They moved back from the first round and like moved back a million times and then took a lot of the picks they got for moving back and traded into the early second. And then with the rest of the seconds they had, they traded back and out and back and out and back in and back out. The 41st pick that day, or no, the 51st pick belonged to 3 different teams on that one day, and the Knicks twice. So the pick was traded 3 times, went to 4 different teams, except 2 of those 4 different teams were the Knicks twice. So they get up to shenanigans on draft night, man. Like, Kolek does kind of present as the odd man out, and it does seem like, unfortunately for him, or you could say fortunately for him, if he's going to go get opportunity somewhere else that he wouldn't have in New York, maybe he's the guy that gets dealt. just does kind of seem clear at this point that someone will get dealt. And especially now with this large gray cloud lingering over of Josh Hart's finger and what exactly is going on there, I can really see the front office and the coaching staff saying, you know what? Yeah, we have to prioritize guys that can play right now. Right. As great as it is to build for the future, this isn't MLB. We don't have a million roster spots. We have 15. It's a different league, literally. So,
and I guess it does buy Josh Hart and company time. Like the organization can say, all right, we have these young guys here. Hart needs some time to rest his finger because we're going to need him next May and June. So let's give him that time on the front end and give these guys, or at the very least, in some cases, you'll give Kolek an opportunity to raise his draft value, right? You give him some minutes early on, even if it's some garbage time minutes, because the vets will eat, of course. But that PT that he might get, you raise. All right, a team might, maybe a Charlotte that has not much going for it this year, right? Let's bring him in. Let's see if we can give him some minutes. Let's squeeze in a little 10 to 15 minutes from somewhere. A lot of these bad teams that don't spend money, they could use a Kolek, but the Knicks might need to showcase him a little bit in order to make that deal happen.
Yeah, and Mike Brown saying he's expecting to play 9 or 10 players. That's obviously more than the Knicks played last season. You could say it was 8 or 9 players last season. Really just 9. But Mike Brown, he said a 9.5 to 10-man rotation. If you look at his career, is what he's always done. You could take a wild guess and figure that he's going to do it again this season. There's no rule that says the 10 guys that play in game 1 have to be the 10 guys that play in game 20. So they can try different things. They have time to experiment. I remember the rule of thumb with Thibodeau was always 20 games. Like, never assume that any lineup change or any rotational change is going to be made that's actually significant before you're 20 games into the season. But once you are 20 to 25 games into the season and a change is made, that's the change, and they're not going back.
And I think just to jump in real quick, as far as the 10-man rotation, one luxury the Knicks do have as being a contending team, their top 6 or 7 guys are locked in. We know who those guys are. It's really all about 8, 9, and 10. How are they going to slide it? How is that going to make sense as the season goes along? They don't have to worry about a starting lineup, in my opinion, anymore. They don't have to worry about the 6th man, and 7th man, or the 8th man. It's just about who's going to be those guys to fill out the situations. Game 47, some random Tuesday in the NBA, we need you to come off the bench and give us 15 minutes. Or do we have the right guys to do that? And that's a good problem, in my opinion, to have.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's the, suffering from success album cover. But I do think there's something to, okay, maybe you still don't agree with swapping out Thibodeau for Brown, but especially from the things that the Knicks can't control, it seems like things are working in their favor in that regard, in the sense that they do have some new challenges coming up this season. They do have some different challenges to approach, some different angles, ways to go about fighting and approaching those challenges. Brown is the guy who's going to try all those things and exhaust all those options and try things. He's not going to throw Mo Diawara out there in the starting lineup game 1 because he wants to get the kids' feet wet and whatever. But if OG Anunoby or Mikal Bridges needs to miss a couple of games, Mikal never misses a game ever, but if most NBA players miss a few games a season, if that's something that someone needs to do, like Mo Diawara, the rookie, the 51st pick, that might be the guy. That might be the guy who gets to play for 3 games. And then it's 2 more months before they get more data from him on an NBA court, but they're always tracking shooting data and things of the sort. So I guess when it comes down to it, my guess for their rotation, it's funny because I really thought Mitchell Robinson would start over Josh Hart. Now I almost feel like they might start Josh to just kind of see what he can do. And if it doesn't feel like he's fitting out there, maybe they just try and shift the game plan a little and save on the minutes.
Allow me to speculate for a second. Considering what you told me earlier about the way the Knicks want to play basketball, is there a world where Mitchell Robinson could be the odd man out?
Yeah. Yeah. He needs an extension. If there is a team that wants to give him that extension, it's a team that he wants to extend with, and that team gets the sense that he would stay. And it's a deal that either is a lateral move for the Knicks on the court, and a positive move for them off the court, or in salary terms, not locker room terms, of course, or it's a trade that the Knicks win, quote unquote, it won't happen, because when you're a contending team, as much as fans like to reshuffle the deck or move the cars around in rush hour to see if they can't just reset and build back up, a team is never going to make a move when contending that makes it worse on purpose. Like, if they make a move to upgrade and the team happens to get worse, they failed, so be it. But the Knicks aren't going to say, oh, we're okay getting a little worse at center because this guy's signed for more years. I can't see that happening, especially with a contending team. How do you look at Jalen Brunson, infamous for taking a $30+ million pay cut, often misconstrued as 113 million? It was definitely over 30, under 40, somewhere in 37. So say 35. How do you look at Jalen Brunson, who took a $35 million pay cut? How do you look at Mikal Bridges, who took about an $6 to $8 million pay cut over the 4 years? Not as much as Brunson, still good amount of money. How do you look at them and say, no, we're putting your money to good use, we're doing everything we can to win, when you're literally dealing guys to get worse players that make less? So I don't see them moving Mitchell Robinson just to get under the cap. But say a deal comes about where the most they can get for Tyler Kolek is 1 second-round pick, and the most they can get for Pacom Dadier is 1 second-round pick. But if they traded Mitchell Robinson and Tyler Kolek together, they could get a big man that they see as equal or better than Mitch. That's what you start considering. That's how you clear a roster spot. That's how you duck that apron. So lots of options for New York, and they still have time to figure it out. Again, they don't get on the court for preseason until October 2nd in Abu Dhabi, and then things will play out from there. But they have time to make these decisions. I do expect to see Brogdon and Shamet both on the final roster. However they go about creating that extra roster spot remains to be seen, but the sense you get from around the league is they're going to create that roster spot. Ray, I feel as if there's one thing left to talk about, which is how good this team can actually be, and how good will it actually be? Because doing ceiling talk is fun, and you can say, oh, well, I could go to this chain restaurant and get a gourmet dish today. Like, it might happen, right? Every bit of meat they put in, every diced tomato, everything might be perfect 5-star quality, but you never know until you taste it. You never know what you're working with until you see it on the court. We've yet to see these Knicks on the court. We don't know exactly how the team is made. We know what the ingredients are. We see them laid out on the counter, but we don't know how the chef is going to mix them together. We don't know how he's going to use them. With all that said, we can do our best job to guess. And especially with the new information today, Hart's finger, Brunson, maybe more of an off-ball role. The team wants to play fast. They want to play physical. They want to play hard. Shocker. Sounds familiar. Not just Thibodeau, every head coach ever. But it seems like a real guarantee of Brown's that, like, if he's here because his team is going to be playing fast and hard and defending aggressively and physically and not fouling. Of course, goals are goals because they're not givens, but that seems to be the given, is that'll be the ethos, that'll be the attempt of the team all season long. How good is this team? We'll start here. Do you think they're the team to beat in the Eastern Conference? Because we're in a pretty peculiar situation where the 2 Eastern Conference finalists are universally agreed upon as being much worse this season, to no fault of their own, leaving Cleveland and New York, and then to most, Orlando is that next team. I think for me, it's Atlanta. But at the top of the Eastern Conference, the cream of the crop, I think the Knicks can be the best team in the East. I'm not writing off the Cavs out of pure faith, though.
Here's the thing. Right now, just based on what we know about teams, and most of this goes on what we learned last season and the offseason moves, and of course injuries. The Knicks are the prohibitive favorite in the Eastern Conference. Okay, you just have to look at it that way, because I can't trust the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're in a position where they've had the talent for a couple of years now, but they've yet to truly show it at that level. Quite frankly, if this was a basketball simulator, they should have been in the finals last season. They were the best team in the Eastern Conference from pillar to post. Then the playoffs got around. Of course, injuries happened, and they kind of stumbled their way into the playoffs, and then they were, summarily ousted in the playoffs. So looking at the roster, if guys are healthy, you could make the argument that it's the Cavs. But if we're talking about teams that we trust, and over the last 2 postseasons, the Knicks have proven themselves to be a trustworthy team, I gotta say they're the favorites. Main reason is that continuity is there and their game travels. The thing about postseason basketball is, hey, cool. Home game's great. Home court advantage is great. But can you go and win on the road? The Knicks have been one of the most dangerous road teams in the NBA for the last 2 seasons, both regular season and postseason. And one of the most difficult things for teams to do on their route to championships is winning difficult road games in loud environments. And quite frankly, what we know about the Knicks is they prefer to be the ops. They prefer to go on the road in a loud environment and hit the silences and win those games that you bet against them to win. It's winning at the Garden that's been questionable for the Knicks over the last 2 seasons. But nevertheless, I think that they've learned from those experiences. This is not some young team that's, to me, a couple of years ago, especially during that run against Philly, there was some of a little energy of, you know what, we're not supposed to be here, but we're happy to be here, and we'll have that run.
And as players continued to get injured, it became more and more incredible what they were doing. And I feel like that almost fueled them further and further. Like, go ahead, take whoever. We'll send 4 guys out there. We'll do Colin Sexton, the 3-on-5. We got this, you know?
Last season, they were kind of like a quasi favorite. And then as things went along, and just be clear, once they got to Boston, the team that they were built to beat, they punched on Boston. They got them out of there. And in a lot of ways, the Santeria of the Garden got in the way of that Indiana. It's something about, I don't know what it is about the Knicks. They found ways to disappoint. And that series against Indiana, they should have won that series. I don't believe in the word should too crazy. But look how they lost the series. Look how they lost that lead. This guy, Halliburton, goes on a fast break, hits the back rim, the front rim, and then the ball goes in. That only happens to the Knicks. So that being said, we put all that to the side. There's no Halliburton in the way. There's no Jason Tatum in the way. We don't believe in the Cavs. Orlando has to show NBA. And when I say we, because I'm not a Knicks fan, I'm saying NBA fans. You have to show us, Orlando. Yeah, you had a strong start to the season last year. Injuries kind of took apart what it could have been. We have to see it. The only team that I know is a proven commodity in the Eastern Conference as of the time of this recording are the New York Knicks. So who else could it be? Are there teams that could show up? You said Atlanta? Quite possibly. I mean, hell, Giannis didn't get traded, so the Bucks you might have to consider them. I don't know, but the Knicks are the guarantee to me in the Eastern Conference.
It feels like they really are a well-rounded team. My issue, and of course you can say this about any team, oh, well, if their 2nd, 5th, and 8th best players get hurt, they won't be so good.
That's any team.
Yeah, but I will say this. You spoke very early on in this show about scheme versatility, about teams playing different styles of basketball, being able to beat you different ways. I always say the Boston Celtics did not win the championship because they played 5 out. The Boston Celtics won the championship because the Mavericks showed up to have a drink after work, and they showed them 5 vials of poison. The Mavericks just happened to pick the one every single time that involved, you're going to have to show us that Kristaps can shoot.
Okay.
Which went how it did. It wasn't because they played 5 out that Dr. Naismith came down from the heavens and gifted them the magic golden key to the Larry O'Brien. It was because they could play every style of basketball.
Exactly.
And you needed to pick your poison. That's why they won the championship. The Knicks have that right now. They have the Towns-Robinson front court. They have the Towns-Yabusele front court. They have the Anunoby-Yabusele front court. That's 3 completely different styles of basketball.
You have Anunoby and Bridges as your wings, and they both can defend. They have everything you need.
The ingredients are on the table. They're nicely sorted. They're measured. They're diced. They're chopped. Everything is ready. But Jalen Brunson said it today. If we want to win, then we will. He believes that it is in the Knicks' power to execute this season. He said, if we want to win games, we will. I think that's really powerful because...
Hold on. Are we looking at the Pistons and forgetting about them?
I'm not. Okay. I'm not forgetting. I don't see them as a threat this season in the Eastern Conference or the NBA.
You don't think they get that playoff experience leap that some teams get? They get a taste of it, and they get even better the following season?
I'm not forgetting that it took the Knicks 6 games to beat them, that it took a series winning Dame Lillard ass 3 from Jalen Brunson.
The snatch.
Which was tough on one of the better
yeah.
athletes in the NBA. We know Jalen Brunson can make any shot. Does it have to come to that every time down the court? That's where the Knicks, kind of go wrong a bit. And I will say, like, how to put it? I will say that this Knicks team seems very aware that they love Tom Thibodeau, that Tom Thibodeau loves basketball, that Tom Thibodeau loves winning, that they love winning, and that because they did not get everything done in the exact moments, Tom Thibodeau is now without work. They understand that, sure, they were annoyed by him, but if they had won the games, he would have a job right now. He would have been addressing the media in Terrytown. You can tell that the players are a little bit not relieved that Thibodeau is gone, but that they were ready for a new voice. You can also tell that today kind of helped them understand the gravity of losing. When not losing in general, these players have all won and lost at various levels. We have college champions, we have NBA champions, we have international champions on the team. The point is, we also have a group of guys that just seem to be learning, like, oh, the lights are really bright, the expectations are super high. This is what happens if we can't afford to keep that light bill on.
So this is the question. Is there a chance that this team, now that they're not kind of the underdog, but now they are the bully, will that pressure get to them?
It's the huge question. And it's part of why I think they pivoted to Brown. Because instead of, we're going to give this our best shot and this is the way we're going to do it, and if it's going to work, it's going to work. And if it's not, it's really not, to death by 1,000 paper cuts, million different schemes, million different rotations and strategies. We got to figure this out. Let's get a guy who wants to figure it out with us instead of figuring it out, instead of trying to get us to see it his way. And I don't mean to purport that Tom Thibodeau is some stubborn, incorrigible meathead. I think he's a brilliant genius. I also know that the Knicks front office spoke to him about placing Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup in place of Josh Hart during the Boston series. He, rebuffed those advances. And then once they were down 0-2 to Indiana, all of a sudden, okay, fine. You guys want this? Here you go. And I think that initial unwillingness to front office, they don't want someone who's going to do everything they say. What's the point of hiring someone like that? Just coach the team yourselves. Send an iPad down to sit on the bench and just be on FaceTime, right? But they want someone who has their own opinions. I think they just also really wanted someone who was malleable, adaptable, you name it. So to conclude here, we've agreed that this is a good basketball team. Yes. We've agreed that they have a great roster, not just because of talent on it, but because of the construction and alignment and compatibility of that talent. We have not yet said if there is a round of the playoffs that they need to reach. Do they need to at least make the finals and take a step forward? Do they need to win 60 games? Is there some tangible form of record that will say this was a successful pivot and change for New York? Or is it going to come down to what got Tom Thibodeau fired, which is process over results? We got to see what the process is. Where do you stand on that?
I think we have to say it's finals or bust. I'm not championship, finals, because you can't spend the entire offseason making shrewd decisions, from firing the coach to the coach you hired to the roster boosting signings to fill out the back end of the roster with guys like a Malcolm Brogdon. Because when Brogdon went to the Knicks, most of the NBA fans' eyebrows went up like, oh, the Knicks are serious. You know what I mean? Because in the past, they don't make that type of a move. They figure it out, and certain players get, like, we went from Clee Anthony Early's many moves ago in the manual quickly.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Even in more recent years, now that putting those two guys in the same sentence is wild. Now that in more recent years the team has been good, could you argue that they weren't making these ring chasing vet margin signings because the guys knew they weren't going to play if they weren't in the
I'm saying.
So
you've gone from, we're trying to, more or less, let's simplify the analogy. When you first start getting money, you want to go to the club, right? You want to be able to pay the cover to get into the club. The Knicks have graduated from paying the cover to get in the club to now they are able to buy a section. But some people, when they buy sections, they can only afford one bottle at the section.
And they act up with it.
Exactly. This season, the New York Knicks have the money to get into the club. They have the money to buy a section. They have the money to buy multiple bottles within the section. But at the same time, you don't want your card to bounce when that bill comes when you try to get that fourth or fifth bottle. You got to get to the finals. You got to stand on the couches. We need all the sparklers. We need the energy. And I think they have the roster to do so. If they don't get to the finals this season with all the noise surrounding the team, it is a massive disappointment. They cannot take a step back. They got to get to the finals. If you lose to OKC or whoever comes out the West, cool. But you got to be there. You got to be the Eastern Conference representative this season.
Yeah, I hear you on that. Obviously injury throws
Is
a
there
wrench
a butt
in.
coming, Kris?
Yeah. Obviously, injury throws a wrench into things. Obviously, you deal with that when you get there. You cross that bridge when you make it. This, that, the third. I want to say that it should be conference finals or bust. And even if that just means making and losing the conference finals. Yeah, again. Because how many times have we seen a team go to the conference final? And I'm not saying the Atlanta Hawks are like, the face of unemployment. I'm not trying to do that, single them out. But they made that Eastern Conference Finals run in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody with a national platform talking about the NBA agreed that at the very least you had to leave open the possibility that this is the next dynasty, that Trey is next up, that this team is just getting started, that as they upgrade on players like Clint Capella or Onyeka Okongwu, or as Okongwu develops, or as they upgrade on someone like John Collins, as DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish continue to develop, that the only direction this team could possibly go was up. And maybe that wouldn't mean another conference finals appearance, but it might mean in 2 years a finals. Well, they haven't been that far in the playoffs since.
So, Kris, hold on. Is there a part of you that's saying this because as a Knicks fan, you don't want to get your heart broken?
I'm saying,
protecting yourself right now?
I'm saying, as someone that covers the New York Knicks objectively,
all right,
that they are a team that can get themselves into trouble after 2 straight years of having their most successful season in years and then making large-scale changes. I think they might fall into the trap of, well, if it doesn't work, we just have to make another large-scale change. Because they had a great year, and then they traded Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. And then they had a great year, and then they fired the coach that held the clipboard as the team made their first conference finals since before I was born.
So there's a fear that this organization is on the cusp of doing too much and sabotaging success?
The theory is that if social media existed for year one of Coughlin and Manning, Eli would have been traded and Coughlin would have been fired. But the organization believed in why they originally brought those guys in and decided to see it out. We know what happened next. I'm not guaranteeing that head coach Tom Brown and quarterback Eli Brunson will win 2 Super Bowls here. But what I am saying is that I don't think such a high listen, finals, 28 teams don't make the finals every year. Yeah. I'm not comfortable saying, because bust implies, I interrupted myself 8 times straight. Finals or bust implies if you don't make the finals, something went wrong and changes need to be made. Like this year was playoffs or bust for the New York Mets. We'll see how that plays out. Yeah. The New York Liberty won the championship.
You're too close with that Mets talk, man. You know what I'm going through right now.
the New York Liberty, this is on my bobbleheads right there. The New York Liberty won the WNBA championship last season. This season, they didn't like the process that their coach used to approach guiding and being in charge of the roster in that title quest. And so they said, we love you. We love what you've done for us, but we're not going to extend you because we are in a spot where we need to be doing our best. We're contending. These stars are over 30. We need to do our best.
You got to maximize the talent.
You do great. We think you do great, but things are not trending in the right direction. We'd rather be early than late. We don't want to fire you mid-season when things are hitting the wall. We're going to part ways now. You go get a job somewhere else. You go do your thing. You go bring another team back to relevance, or you go help another team reach contender status. We need to go in an aggressive different direction. So for me, Ray, I'm going to go ahead and say the Josh Hart injury news ticks down the win prediction for me. I would have said 56, 58 wins for this team. Now maybe 54, something just slightly less aggressive. I feel like every win after 54 is so heavy to add on to a prediction. But I will say I do think they make the NBA Finals. I think they lose to the Denver Nuggets. That's been my prediction. I love the Nuggets bench. I love what they've done. I love the upgrade in the starting lineup, which I view as an upgrade. I guess I should say the change in the starting lineup that I view as an upgrade. But to conclude, I think it's Eastern Conference Finals appearance or bust. If they can't make the Eastern Conference Finals, that's a bust of a season. You should have kept Thibodeau, this, that, the third. If they make the Eastern Conference Finals and just get good shots and don't make them, you can't throw your controller at the TV because you didn't get the timing right on the jumper. Like
maybe it's the Laker fan in me. Once you got a roster that competes for a championship, you got to go to the finals.
I hear you, and it's the Knicks, and that used to be them too.
The Santeria though is real though. The Knicks, no slander, but the strange things happens to the Knicks when they're supposed to be good. So there's always that out that you got to have. There's a little bit of dastardly things that happen to them.
I think Josh Hart showing up to media day with a finger the size of his wrist qualifies under your Santeria qualification there. But man, Ray, two things for me. One, thank you so much for joining the show. It was a great conversation. I think the listeners will really enjoy it, or since they're at the end of the episode, have really enjoyed it. Second thing, what do you want to plug or promote before we get out of here, man? Tell the people where they can go find you.
You see it, the Rap Roundtable. That's my sports, my music podcast. Follow us on Instagram at the Rap Roundtable PC. Follow us on Instagram at the Rap Roundtable. Find us on YouTube and subscribe over there. 22,000 subs and counting on YouTube. Subscribe, the Rap Roundtable. We talk about it all. We some old angry New Yorkers, but we talk about the entire landscape of hip hop music, the culture. We cover it all. We've had some notable guests. We're active in the New York rap underground. We've had some people from the overground, some people from the mainstream login. We've built relationships with Elliot Wilson, Punch from TDE, so on and so forth. So lock in with the Rap Roundtable, and hopefully Kris and I will be talking about ball a lot this upcoming NBA season.
Absolutely. I was going to say I was going to bring up the 20K subs if you didn't. It's nothing to sneeze at.
It's hard work to get that.
You guys have built a really impressive platform. And I was also going to mention, you got some really impressive guests to join you too. So people can hear all sorts of perspectives. Check out the Rap Roundtable. Go follow Ray on X/Twitter at JarvTGA. And that's all, folks. We'll see you next time here on All Things NBA from A to Z. I'm KP. You know where to find me. It'll be linked down below if you want to go follow my Twitter. And stay tuned. NBA season is ramping up. We're ready. We're ready to get right into the heat of things. Give me the flamethrower. I'll hold it. I'll fire it. You know,
magic. Let's get it.
It's time, man. It's time, and I feel it. It's like that first day of school feeling where you're setting your clothes out the night before. It's like, man, I know I'm going to hate these classes in a week, but something about showing up day one with that pep in your step is the best feeling in the world. So thanks so much for tuning in, Ray. Thanks for taking the time to join the show. And like you said at the top, long overdue, but we'll make up for it on the back end with lots of collaboration in the future. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll see you next time right here on ATA from A to Z, presented by ballislife.com.